Good evening and welcome back to Into Vietnam following some major stories. Vietnam ranked the 9th in the globe on receiving overseas remittances. Foreign investment up 30% in Ho Chi Minh City. And Vietnam's life insurance market will surpass annual growth target. According to the latest forecast by the State Bank of Vietnam, the amount of remittances to Vietnam this year could reach $11 billion, up sharply from $9.75 billion in 2012. Overall, remittances to Vietnam from 1993 to 2013 are at about $84 billion. According to the World Bank's ranking in 2013, Vietnam ranks the 9th in the list of countries receiving the most remittances, estimated at $11 billion. The amount of remittances to Vietnam keep rising high, with average increase for the period 1994 and 2012 of 24%, and almost continuously over the years, just fell in 1997 due to regional financial monetary crisis, and in 2009 due to the world financial crisis and economic recession. Foreign direct investment registered in Ho Chi Minh City in the first 11 months of this year amounted to $1.6 billion, a year-on-year increase of 30%. FDI was expected to reach $2 billion this year, much higher than the figure of $1.3 billion last year. By November the 20th, the city had 412 FDI projects licensed and 120 others approved for capital expansion. As for domestic investment, the city had also licensed more than 23,600 businesses, an increase of 7%, with total investment of 107.6 trillion dong, or $5.12 billion, down 39% on year. At the same time, some 2,200 businesses, equaling 9.3% of newly established businesses in the city, have been dissolved. More than 20,000 new businesses were established in the first 11 months, a good sign for the city's economy. In related news, Japan Embassy in Vietnam recently signed an agreement granting Vietnam $0.5 million of non-refundable aid to develop education and infrastructure in poor provinces. In details, the Japan's non-refundable aids are poured to 5 projects, including 4 of standing schools. Each is funded from $190,000 to $191,000, and 1 project of upgrading water supply system at the commune level, which is funded $94,000. It's reported these 5 projects worth nearly $580 million. These projects are expected to directly improve life quality of local residents and next generations. Mr. Hiroshi Fukada, ambassador of Japan to Vietnam, says the relation between Vietnam and Japan is not only the links between nations, but also a strong relation in which people of 2 nations trust, cohesion, and mutual support. Vietnam's life insurance segment is expected to exceed its annual target of 15%, with 19 to 21% growth in the previous 3 quarters.
According to a report released in a 2-day conference that opened yesterday, Vietnam Insurance Association says that this year's revenues for this segment is estimated at more than 21.15 trillion Vietnam dong, or $1.01 million. The non-life insurance segment is expected to meet the 10% growth target for the year. It is expected to post revenues of 25.034 trillion Vietnam dong, or $1.19 billion this year. Although it saw a negative growth rate of -5% in the first quarter, the segment rallied in the second and third quarters, with growth of 5% in the second quarter, and the third quarter sees 8.6% growth. The country will celebrate 20 years of Vietnamese insurance market development in this month. Demands on life insurance and health insurance has been increasing rapidly in the past time. There were 20 million school students, 5 million laborers, 1.5 million auto owners, 7 million motorbike owners, 200,000 business owners, and more than 6 million other people who have joined life insurance schemes. Many foreign invested companies in transportation, telecommunication, oil exploitation, electricity, tourism, and shipbuilding sectors have also purchased insurance.
Vietnam received 6.85 million foreign visitors in the first 11 months of 2013, up 10.2% from the same period last year. Of the sum, 4.2 million people came for tourism, entertainment and relaxation, up 12.1% on year. Foreigners came by airlines reached 5.4 million people, up 7% on year. China topped the list of Vietnam's foreign tourists in the period, with 1.73 million people, up 34.1% on year. Korea ranked second with 683,000 people, up 7.4%. Japan stayed the third with 554,000 people, up 5.5%. In October alone, the country welcomed around 738,000 foreign visitors, up 16% on month. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, China has bought around one-third of Vietnam's 6.3 million tons of export rice via official channel, not accounting the amount via border trade. The ministry says that Vietnam shipped 441,000 tons of rice abroad in November, taking the total shipment this year to date to 6.29 million tons, worth $2.78 billion, falling 16% and 19% on year respectively. China alone bought $800 million worth of rice from Vietnam in the 11-month period. The Agriculture Ministry made clear that the value of rice export to China this year excluded the border trade amount, as formal statistics are not available. In early November, Vietnam Food Association estimated that the amount of rice exported to China via border trade might amount to 1.5 million tons this year. Authorities have warned traders of risk involving border trades, citing settlement risk and problems related to tax refunds. And coming up next is some other foreign trade news.
Vietnam export to the Republic of Korea reached $5.49 billion in the first 10 months of 2013, showing an increase of 21% year-on-year. In October alone, exports to the market hit more than $725.4 million, up 20% compared to the previous month. Among major export items in the review period, garment took the lead, raking in more than $1.3 billion, up 49.2%. Garment exports are expected to keep growing in the remaining months of the year, making the Republic of Korea one of the Vietnam's key garment consumers after the US, EU and Japan. Crude oil and means of transport placed the second and the third in terms of export value. Other products also experiencing high export growth included footwear, wood and timber products, computers, electronics and components, and mobile handsets. According to the General Department of Customs, Vietnam footwear exports are expected to bounce back following 4 consecutive monthly decreases, aiming to fetch $8 billion by the year end. The footwear sector achieved an impressive growth recovery in October, pocketing $716.7 million, up 30.5% from the previous month. Its export value was down 3.1% in September, 4.1% in August, 2.9% in July, and 8.4% in June. In 10 months, the sector earned $6.7 billion from exports, a year-on-year increase of 15.1%. The U.S. is currently the leading market for Vietnam footwear exports, with turnover of $2.1 billion in just 10 months, accounting for 31.9% of the country's total exports.
Exporters of various commodities in Vietnam have always been dreaming of having a self-contained supply chain so that they can manage the whole process of farming and distribution. Despite their efforts, no companies in Vietnam have been succeeded in building such supply chain. What are the reasons behind this? Let's find out in the following report. Vietnamese exporters say in order to penetrate big markets like the United States, Japan and South Korea, their goods must meet tough requirements, and to do so they need to be able to control from the beginning stage of farming to the end of distribution. In other words, exporters are required to make sure the farming their products meet international standards. and other stages of processing, harvesting, preservation, and distribution must also meet this standard. But in fact, most of local exporters have not developed a self-contained supply chain, which has caused them a lot of troubles in the past few years.
Chúng ta phải có một cái quy trình xử lý, thu hoạch và chế biến đạt cái chuẩn thì nó mới có được cái sản phẩm tốt. Và để làm được những chuyện đó nó đòi hỏi cái hệ thống kho bãi rất là lớn, như là những cái hệ thống xe lạnh, hệ thống kho lưu trữ mát, cái hệ thống xử lý công nghệ bảo quản và cuối cùng là cái chuỗi cung ứng logistics để đưa cái sản phẩm đó ra tới thị trường nước ngoài, và cuối cùng kể cả cái siêu thị của nước ngoài luôn thì cũng phải có cái hệ thống bảo quản hợp lý cho cái sản phẩm đó, thì cuối cùng cái sản phẩm đó mới đạt đến tay người tiêu dùng đạt chất lượng. Và phải nói là đó là cái gánh nặng của doanh nghiệp muốn xuất khẩu rau quả tươi, phải làm được tất cả những công việc đó.
The practices of spontaneous production without orientation, long-term strategies or connection has negatively influenced local farmers. Constant repetition of ups and downs has been accepted in their production. As a result of this, although Vietnam is basically an agricultural economy, it has to import input materials for production at high prices, and this reduces their global competitiveness.
Tôi đang lo một điều là rất là rõ, trước đây ở Đồng Tháp cũng bị là đến mùa nhãn thì nhãn có giá thì người ta thấy nhãn có giá, người ta lại là lên clip trồng nhãn, rồi cái nhãn không có giá người ta chặt nhãn đi, người ta lại trồng cái ổi không hạt, rồi trồng cái ổi không hạt thì không có nguồn thu mua tốt, giá nó xuống lỗ thì họ lại ban bờ ra tiếp để trồng lúa lại. Đó là sự thật, nó đã có chuyện này.
Tôi đơn cử như bây giờ chúng ta có thể nói là vì sao cái hệ thống các nhà máy sản xuất thức ăn chăn nuôi Việt Nam phải nhập khẩu, thì đó không còn là cái việc là tại sao chúng ta phải đi mua bánh dầu, tại sao chúng ta phải đi mua bắp, mặc dầu là đậu nành, mặc dầu là bắp chúng ta đều có thể sản xuất được, hoặc là bột cá, bột xương, thì đó là cái việc của quy hoạch vùng trồng, rồi là quy hoạch những cái công nghệ hỗ trợ về mặt kỹ thuật và công nghệ sau thu hoạch.
The absence of the self-contained supply chain makes exporters of various products passive in their activities, and their foreign partners also have difficulties in finding out about Vietnamese products.
Người nhập khẩu người ta vô, có khi người ta tìm những cái doanh nghiệp nào bán những cái trái đó, rồi người ta đến ta hỏi, thậm chí người ta xuống nhà vườn để người ta mua trực tiếp của hợp tác xã. Trong khi đó thì người nông dân người ta cũng đâu có biết gì về mua bán.
Chuối là một giấc mơ của các nhà chăn nuôi, từ sản xuất thức ăn qua con giống đến bảo vệ thú y, rồi đến người chăn nuôi, rồi đến giết mổ, rồi đến bán ra thị trường, làm thị trường, thì tôi cho rằng là tuyệt vời. Chỉ một cái đầu khâu nó giảm các khâu hiện nay của chúng ta đang bị cắt khúc ở trong các chuỗi, cho nên chuỗi nào cũng vay ngân hàng cả, thì rồi nó đưa cái giá thành sản phẩm lên cao. Đấy là một cái nhược điểm.
All in all, the absence of a self-contained supply chain is partly contributed to Vietnam's weaknesses in penetrating global market, despite its strength in agricultural products. In the international market, local firms are always in a passive position. Firms should strive and make greater efforts to build a self-contained supply chain. And wrapping up is a summary of today's gold prices, forex, and stock market. Well, that's the end of the series. Thank you again for your time with us. Enjoy your weekend and see you later.